is the original novel, question mark, question mark. It's like the first edition of Alice. So it has like, it's less of a truncated version, and it's actually kind of long. So who knows? I think I'm gonna get through a few chapters, but I only really plan to stream for like 2 hours tonight. So we'll see how it goes. Normally I have my lip balm, but I do not have it. I hate that. Do not have it. Really do hate that, but I'm just gonna go for it. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 chapters. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll get through. Why is everything shifting? Maybe I'll get through like 4 or something. I don't know. I'll see it when I see it. Okay. I'm just gonna start reading, and I don't know, I guess I'll stop when I stop. I start reading when I read, and I stop when I stop. I don't know. I haven't done one of these. Can I move it like this? No. I haven't done one of these in a hot minute. So, I think I'll just start. Chapter 1. I. Chapter 1. Down the rabbit hole. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. Once or twice, she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversations? So she was considering, in her own mind, as well as she could, for the hot day made her feel very sleepy and stupid. Why did they say that? Whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think it was so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, "Oh dear, oh dear, I shall be too late." When she thought it over afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this, but at the time it all seemed quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of his waistcoat pocket and looked at it, and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet, and for it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take it out of, and, burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it, and was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. I love that Alice is like, the talking, that was totally fine by me. The talking wasn't bothered by that. It was really the waistcoat pocket that bothered me. It was really, really the waistcoat pocket that bothered me about that. Also, I've decided to whisper for this reading tonight. It just felt appropriate. I could talk quietly, but I kind of like the whispering tonight. In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was to get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on, like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped suddenly, down, so suddenly, that Alice had not a moment herself falling down what seemed to be a very deep well. Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her, and to wonder what was going to happen next. First, she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she looked at the sides of the well and noticed that they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. Thank you, Mac, for redeeming the first kiss. You get the first kiss of the day, possibly the only kiss of the day. We'll see how it goes. She took down a jar from one of the shelves she passed. It was labeled orange marmalade, but to her great disappointment, it was empty. She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody underneath. So managed to put it into one of the cupboards as she fell past it. Alice is kind of cracking me up, I'm not gonna lie. Because she's like, well, I don't want to kill somebody. I know I'm falling down this hole and none of this really makes sense, but, you know. None of this really makes sense to me, but, you know. I might as well make sure I don't murder somebody on my way over here. She's not worried about, you know, rabbits that talk. She is worried about the rabbit's clothing, but she's not worried about the fact that it can talk and it was talking to itself. She's not really worried about, like, a hole with, like, marmalade in it, but she is worried about killing somebody with a marmalade jar, you know? Priorities. Thank you for the follow. Taking gravity and inertia into account, you know, I do appreciate it. Well, thought Alice to herself, after such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think of me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it, even if I fell off the top of the house, which was very likely true. Down, down, down. Would the fall never come to an end? I wonder how many miles I've fallen by this time, she said aloud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For you see, Alice had learned several things of this sort in her lessons in the classroom. And though this was not a very good opportunity for showing off her knowledge, as there was no one to listen to her, still, it was good practice to say it over. Alice is constantly falling down the stairs. She said herself she's fallen off the roof of the house. I mean, you know how children were back then, unregulated. Yes, that's about the right distance, but then I wonder what latitude or longitude. She's cracking me up. I gotta lock in. Alice had not the slightest idea what latitude was, or longitude either, but she thought they were pretty nice, grand words to say. Presently, she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it'll seem to come out among the people that walk with their heads downwards. The what is this? Antipathies. I've never heard this word before. Key old English word. I've never heard that. I think. She says this, I think. She was rather glad there was no one listening this time, as it didn't sound at all the right word messing up a word. Antipathies. I don't know what she's trying to say. It's not a word. She's messing up a word, but I have no idea what she's trying to say. I don't know. Also, thank you for the hydrate. I will hydrate because I am thirsty. My water bottle is very, very full right now. Things much. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? And she tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy curtsying as you're falling through the air. Do you think you can manage it? Is the author talking to me? Is the author talking to me right now? Why is he talking to me? And what an ignorant little girl she'll think me for asking. No, it'll never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice soon began talking again. Dina will miss me very much tonight, I should think. Dina was the cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Dina, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat, and that is very much like a mouse. You know, but do cats eat bats, I wonder? That's a great question, Alice. That is a great question, actually. That's a great question. I have to know. I love how it's do cats eat bats, and immediately it's Alice in Wonderland. Great. Do cats eat bats? That's a great question. Cats do eat bats. Apparently. I guess wild cats. Yeah, they do. Did not know that. And here Alice began to get rather sleepy, and went on saying to herself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes do bats eat cats? For you see, as she couldn't answer either question, it didn't matter much which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off, and had just begun to dream that she was walking hand in hand with Dina, and was saying to her very earnestly, now Dina, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly... It's probably really loud. Down she came upon a heap of sticks. I'll let you know there was onomatopoeia. Thump. Down she came. Thump, thump. 2 thumps. I only did 1. Down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt, and she jumped up onto her feet in a moment. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. No, it says thump. It says thump thump. It just says thump thump, so I figured bump bump. I do 2, but I only did 1. You're welcome. Before her was another long passage, and the white rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. To be honest, this rabbit is kind of slow, like she's been falling for like 6 business days. The rabbit is kind of slow, no? Like, shouldn't he be, like, really, really far ahead? She's been falling for, like, forever, and he left ahead of her. This time doesn't really make a lot of sense. There was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and was just in time to hear it say as it turned a corner, "Oh, my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting." She was close behind it. When she turned the corner and the rabbit was no longer to be seen, she found herself in a long, low hall, which was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from the roof. That big old watch. There were doors all around the hall, but they were all locked, and when Alice had been all the way down one side and up the other trying every door, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she was ever to get out again. Suddenly, she came upon a little three-legged table, all made of solid glass. There was nothing on it but a tiny golden key, and Alice's first idea was that this might belong to one of the doors of the hall. But alas, I love alas. I love that word. Such a good word. But alas, either the locks were too large or the key was too small. But at any rate, it would not open any of them. However, on the second time around, she came upon a low curtain she had not noticed before, and behind it was a little door, about 15 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. It fitted. I love old-timey terms. It fitted. Nobody ever says fitted before. Or now. I don't want to say before because I said it before. But nobody ever says fitted. It fitted. That's fun. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passage, not much larger than a rat hole. She knelt down and looked along the passage into the loveliest garden you ever saw. How she longed to get out of that dark hall and wander about among those beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains. But she could not even get her head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through, thought poor Alice, it would be of very little use without my shoulders. Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. I think I could, if I only knew how to begin. For, you see, so many out-of-the-way things had happened lately that Alice had begun to think that very few things indeed were really impossible. There seemed to be no use in waiting by the little door, so she went back to the table, half hoping she might find another key on it, or at any rate, a book of rules for shutting people up like telescopes. This time, she found a little bottle on it, which certainly was not here before, said Alice, and tied around the neck of the bottle was a paper label with the words, "Drink me," beautifully printed on it in large letters. Now, Alice, it was all very well to say "drink me," but the wise little Alice was not going to do that. In a hurry. No. "I'll look first," she said, "and see whether it's marked poison or not," for she had read several nice little stories about children who had gotten burnt and eaten up by wild beasts and other unpleasant things, all because they would not remember the simple rules their friends had taught them, such it's true. When you cut yourself, you do bleed, yeah. She's very smart. And she had never forgotten that if you drink much from a bottle marked poison, it is most certainly to disagree with you sooner or later. She's so right. However, this bottle was not marked poison. So Alice ventured to taste it, finding it very nice. It had, in fact, a sort of mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. She very soon finished it off. That sounds like the worst fucking drink. I can't even lie, that sounds quite awful. That reminds me of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where he has like the gum that he's chewing, or the gum that that girl is chewing. I can't remember her name. Like one of the whiny kids, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's like gravy running down my throat," or something. She's like talking about it when he had like the 3-course meal in gum, but he couldn't get the dessert correct. Veruca Salt, was that the one? Or was Veruca another bratty kid? I can't remember. What a curious feeling, said Alice. I must be shutting up like a telescope. And so it was indeed. She was now only 10 inches high, and her face brightened up at the thought that she was now the right size for going through the little door into that lovely garden. First, however, she waited for a few minutes to see if she was going to shrink any further. Thank you for the head pats. For it might end, said Alice to herself, in my going out altogether. Like a candle. I wonder what I should be like then. And she tried to fancy what the flame of a candle looks like after the candle is blown out, for she could not remember having ever seen such a thing. Everyone's gonna have to give me grace. It's like all old-timey English. I keep getting thrown off by the dialogue. After a while, finding that nothing more happened, she decided going on into the garden at once. But, alas for poor Alice, when she got to the door, she found she had forgotten the little golden key. And when she went back to the table for it, she found she could not possibly reach it. She could see it quite plainly through the glass, and she tried her best to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery. And when she tired herself out with trying, the poor thing sat down and cried. Come, there's no use in crying like that, said Alice to herself, rather sharply. I advise you to leave off this minute. She generally gave herself very good advice, though she very seldom followed it. And sometimes she scolded herself so severely as to bring tears into her eyes. And once she remembered trying to box her own ears for having cheated herself in a game of croquet that she was playing against herself, for this curious child was very fond of pretending to be two people. I never understood croquet. I was never good at it. It's fun to hit the balls, though, I can't lie. But it's no use now, thought poor Alice, to pretend to be two people. Why, there's hardly enough of me left to make one respectable person. Soon, her eye fell on a little glass box that was lying under the table. She opened said Alice. And if it makes me grow larger, I can reach the key. And if it makes me grow smaller, I can creep under the door. So, either way, I'll get into the garden, and I don't care which happens. She ate a little bit, and said anxiously to herself, which way, holding her hand on the top of her head to feel which way it was growing, and she was quite surprised to find that she remained the same size. To be sure, this is what generally happens when one eats cake. But Alice had gotten so much into the way of expecting nothing but out of the way things to happen, that this seemed quite dull and stupid for life to go on in the common way. So she set off to work, and very soon finished off the cake. Chapter 2. The Pool of Tears. I just need a moment to sit up. I was not sitting up straight at all. Okay, now I'm ready. Wait. I thought I was gonna burp, sorry. Not yet. Wait. I did. Okay. The Pool of Tears. Curiouser and curiouser. Curious. I think she's saying curiouser. Cried Alice. I think Alice, before I start chapter 2, I think Alice in the original novel is a little bit more fun than the Disney version. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, she has way more personality. Kind of a shame that they, like, scrubbed her clean. Cried Alice. Curious. Let me just start over. Curiouser and curiouser, cried Alice. She was so much surprised that for the moment she quite forgot how to speak good English. Now, I'm opening out like the largest telescope that ever was. Goodbye, feet. For when she looked down at her feet, they seemed to be almost out of sight. They were getting so far off. Oh, my poor feet. I wonder who put on your shoes and stockings for you now, dears. I'm sure I shan't be able. I shall be a great deal too far off to trouble myself about you. You must manage the best way you can, but I must be kind to them, thought Alice, or perhaps they won't walk the way I want to go. Let me see. I'll give them a new pair of boots every Christmas. Poor Alice. And she went on planning to herself how she would manage. They must go by carrier, she thought, and how funny it'll seem sending back presents to one's own feet, and how odd the directions will look. Alice's right foot, art the rug, near the fender, with Alice's love. Oh dear, what nonsense I'm talking. Just at this moment, her head struck against the roof of the hall. In fact, she was now rather more than 9 feet high, and she at once took up the little golden key and hurried off to the garden door. Poor Alice! It was as much as she could do lying down on one side to look through the garden with one eye, but to get through was more hopeless than ever. She sat down and began to cry again. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, said Alice. A great girl like you. She might well say this, to go on crying in this way. Stop this moment, I tell you. But she went on all the same, shedding gallons of tears until there was a large pool all around her, She hastily dried her eyes to see what was coming. It was the White Rabbit returning, splendidly dressed, with a pair of white kid gloves in one hand and a large fan in the other. He came trotting along in a great hurry, muttering to himself as he came, "Oh, the Duchess, oh, won't she be savage if I've kept her waiting?" Alice felt so desperate that she was ready to ask for help. Of anyone. So when the rabbit came near her, she began in a low, timid voice. If you please, sir," the rabbit started violently, dropped the kid gloves and the fan, and scurried away into the darkness as hard as he could go. Alice took up the fan and gloves, and as the hall was very hot, she kept fanning herself. All the time she went on talking. Dear, how queer everything is today, and yesterday things went on just as usual. I wonder if I've been changed in the night. Let me think. Was I the same when I got up this morning? I almost think I can remember feeling a little different. But if I'm not the same, the next question is, who in the world am I? That's a great puzzle. And she began thinking over all the children she knew that were of the same age as herself, to see if she could have been changed for any of them. Well, I'm sure I'm not Ada, she said, for her hair goes in such long ringlets, and mine doesn't go in any ringlets at all. And I'm sure I can be Mabel, for I know all sorts of things, and she, well, she knows a very little. Besides, she's she, and I'm, oh dear, how puzzling it all is. I'll try if I know all the things I used to know. Let me see. 4 times 5 is 12, and 4 times 6 is 13, and 4 times 7, oh dear, I'll never get to 20 at that rate. However, the multiplication table don't signify. Let's try geography. London is the capital of Paris, and Paris is the capital of Rome, and Rome, oh no, that's all wrong. I'm certain I must have been changed for Mabel. I'll try and say, how doth the little, and she crossed her hands on her lap as if she were saying lessons and began to repeat it, but her voice sounded hoarse and strange, and the words did not come the same as they used to. How doth the little crocodile improve his shining tail, and pour the waters of the Nile on every golden scale? How cheerfully he seems to grin, how neatly he spreads his claws, and welcome little fishes with gently smiling jaws. I'm sure those are not the right words, said poor Alice, and her eyes filled with tears again as she went on. I must be Mabel after all, and I shall have to go and live in that poky little house, and have next to no toys to play with, and oh, ever so many lessons to learn. No, I've made my mind up about it. If I'm Mabel, I'll stay down here. It'll be no use putting their heads down and saying, "Come up again, dear." I shall only look up and say, "Who am I then? Tell me that first." And then, if I like being that person, I'll come up. If not, I'll stay down here till I'm somebody else. But oh dear, cried Alice with a sudden burst of tears. I do wish they would put their heads down. I'm so very tired of being all alone here. I do think it's great crazy as she's crying, she has time to make fun of this girl Maple, who she's calling stupid and poor. She said, well, maybe Maple's a fucking idiot, and I'm not a fucking idiot. Meanwhile, Alice just said that London is the capital of Paris, and Paris is the capital of Rome. And that 4 times 6 is 13, but you know what? You know what? Like, who am I? Who am I to say? Who is smarter in this situation? You know, it just seems a little bit hypocritical, Alice. That's all I have to say. I don't know why I cannot get comfortable tonight. Like, I am shifting around in my chair. As she said this, she looked down at her hands and was surprised to see that she had put on one of the rabbit's little white kid gloves while she was talking. How can I have done that? She thought. I must be growing small again. She got up and went to the table to measure herself by it, and found that, as nearly as she could guess, she was now about 2 feet high, and was going on shrinking rapidly. She soon found out that the cause of this was the fan she was holding, and she dropped it hastily, just in time to save herself from shrinking away altogether. That was a narrow escape, said Alice, a good deal frightened at the sudden change, but very glad to find herself still in existence. And now for the garden, and she ran with all her speed back to the little door. But alas, the little door was shut again, and the little golden key was lying on a glass table as before. And things are worse than ever, thought the poor child, for I was never so small as this before, never, and I declare it's too bad that it is. As she said these words, her foot slipped, and in another moment, shoo, splash, she was up to her chin in salt water, all those tears she was crying before. And her first idea was that she had somehow fallen into the sea. And in that case, I can go back by the railway, she said to herself. Alice had been to the seaside once in her life, and had come to the general conclusion that wherever you go onto the English, I said that correctly, wherever you go onto the English coast, you find a number of bathing machines in the sea, some children digging in the sand with wooden spades, and then a row of lodging houses, and behind them a railway station. However, she soon made out that she was in the pool of tears which she had wept when she was 9 feet high. I wish I hadn't cried so much, said Alice, as she swam about, trying to find her way out. I shall be punished for it now, I suppose, by being drowned in my own tears. That will be a very queer thing, to be sure. However, everything today is queer. I know, she just means, like, queer, just another word back then for, like, odd. But it catches me off guard every time. Alice, June is approaching. Everything is about to get really queer. Just then, she heard something splashing about in a pool a little way off, and she swam near to make out what it was. At first, she thought it must be a walrus or hippopotamus, but then she remembered how small she was now, and she soon made out that it was only a mouse that had slipped in like herself. Would it be of any use now, thought Alice, to speak to this mouse? Everything is so out of the way down here that I should think very likely it can talk. At any rate, there's no harm in trying. So she began, Alice thought this must be the right way of speaking to a mouse. She had never done such a thing before, but she remembered having seen her brother's Latin grammar. A mouse of a mouse to a mouse. A mouse, oh mouse. Alice needs to pay attention in school. She's really doing bad. She's not retaining any of this information. Also, lore. I did not know that Alice had a brother. Lore. Lore drop. No one ever mentions Alice's brother. What? The mouse looked at her rather inquisitively and seemed to wink in one of his little eyes, but it said nothing. Perhaps it doesn't understand English, thought Alice. I dare say it's a French mouse. Come over with William the Conqueror. For all her knowledge of history, Alice had no clear notion how long ago anything had happened. So she began again. Oh, guest, my chate. I probably butchered that French. I'm not French, clearly. Which was the first sentence in her French lesson book. The mouse gave a sudden leap out of the water and seemed to quiver over with fright. Oh, I beg your pardon, cried Alice hastily, afraid that she had hurt the poor animal's feelings. I quite forgot you didn't like cats. No, not like cats, cried the mouse in a shrill, passionate voice. Oh, so you do know English. So why did you say anything when she said something the first time without? Would you like cats if you were me? Well, perhaps not, said Alice in a soothing tone. Don't be angry about it. And yet, I wish I could show you to our cat Dina. I think you'd take a fancy to cats if you could only see her. She's such a dear, quiet thing. Alice went on, half to herself, as she swam lazily about in the pool. And she sits purring so nicely by the fire, licking her paws and washing her face. And she is such a nice, soft thing to nurse. And she's such a capital one for catching mice. I mean, oh, I beg your pardon, cried Alice again, for this time the mouse was bristling all over, and she felt certain it must be really offended. We won't, talk about her anymore, if you'd rather not. We indeed, cried the mouse, who was trembling down at the end of his tail, as if I would talk on such a subject. Our family always hated cats, nasty, low, vulgar things. Don't let me hear that name again. I won't indeed, said Alice, in a great hurry to change the subject of conversation. Are you fond of dogs? I do love how she's stuttering through this. Do you like dogs? The mouse did not answer, so Alice went on eagerly. There is such a nice little dog near our house. I should like to show it to you. A little bright-eyed terrier, you know, with such long, curly brown hair, and it'll fetch things when you throw them, and it'll sit up and beg for its dinner, and all sorts of things. I can't remember half of them, but it belongs to a farmer, you know, and he says it's so useful. It's worth £100. He says it kills all the rats and... Oh, dear, cried Alice in a sorrowful tone. I'm afraid I've offended you again, for the mouse was swimming away from her. Thank you for the follow, oh my god. Alice just needs to shut the hell up, to be honest. Like, she can't hold a conversation. She can't read the room. That's part of the problem. The mouse was swimming away from her as hard as it could go, and making quite a commotion in the pool as it went. So she called softly after it. dogs again, and if you don't like them. When the mouse heard this, it turned around and swam slowly back to her. Its face was quite pale with passion, Alice thought. Let us get to shore, and then I'll tell you my history, and you'll understand why it is I hate cats and dogs. It was high time to go, for the pool was getting quite crowded with the birds and animals that had fallen into it. There was a duck, and a dodo, a lory, and an eaglet, and several other curious creatures. Alice led the way, and the whole party swam to shore. Thank you for the follow. Also, the top of the hour ad break is in about 5 minutes. So it is coming. So if you're not subscribed, prepare yourself for the ad break. I can't lie, I'm also getting sleepy. Just reading this, but we're already on chapter 3. Wow. But we're already on chapter 3. Wow. I didn't realize how short this book, well, not that far, let me stop. I'm not that far yet. Thank you for that, Bats. We'll see how far we get. I did only plan to stream for like 2 hours tonight, but we'll see. I am actually really enjoying this book. It's actually like way better than I thought it was. Like, I thought it was gonna be kind of boring. But Alice is very fun as a protagonist. Like, she has that like child stupidity, which is always a joy. And she's very earnest, which is fun. Sweet, even. Chapter 3. A caucus race. A cock. I am 5 years old. I will grow up one of these days. A caucus race and a long tail. They were indeed a queer-looking party that assembled on the bank. The birds with draggled feathers, the animals with their fur clinging close to them, and all dripping wet, cross, and uncomfortable. The first question, of course, was how to get dry again. They had a consultation about this, and after a few minutes, it seemed quite natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them, as if she had known them all her life. Indeed, she had quite a long argument with the lory, who at last turned sulky and would only say, "I am older than you and must know better." And this Alice would not allow without knowing how old it was, and the lory positively refused to tell its age. There was no more to be said. At last, the mouse, who seemed to be a person of some authority among them, called out, "Sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I'll soon make you dry enough." They all sat down at once, in a large ring, and the mouse was in the middle. Alice kept her eyes anxiously fixed on it, for she felt sure she would catch a bad cold if she did not get very dry soon. Said the mouse, with an important air. "Are you all ready? This is the driest thing I know. Silence all around, if you please." William the Conqueror, whose cause was favored by the Pope, was soon submitted to by the English, who wanted leaders, and had been of late much accustomed to usurpation and conquest. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria. "Ugh," said the Lord proceed. Edwin and Mogar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, declared for him, and even Stigand, the patriotic Archbishop of Canterbury, found it advisable. Found what? Said the duck. Found it, said the mouse, rather crossly. Of course you know what it means. I know what it means well enough when I find a thing, said the duck. It's generally a frog or a worm. The question is, what did the Archbishop find? The mouse did not notice this question, but hurriedly went on. This guy loves a little bit of wordplay. He said, I'm gonna make it dry as fuck in here. And instead of starting a fire, he said, I'm gonna read you the most boring passage of all time. That's dry as hell. Get it? Dry. Oh, we hate it here. We hate it here. Found it advisable to go with Edgar Atheling to meet William and offer him the crown. William's conduct at first was moderate, but the insolence of his Normans. How are you getting on, my dear? It continued, turning to Alice as it spoke. As wet as ever, said Alice in a melancholy tone. It doesn't seem to dry me at all. In that case, said the dodo solemnly, rising to its feet, I move that the meeting adjourn for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies. Speak English, said the eaglet. I don't know the meaning of half of those long words, and what's more, I don't believe that you do either. It's kind of fucked up, kind of rude. And the eaglet bent down its head to hide a smile. Some of the other birds tittered audibly. What I was going to say, said the dodo in an offended tone, was that the best thing to get us dry would be a caucus race. What is a caucus race? Said Alice. Not that she much wanted to know. But the dodo had paused, as if it thought that somebody ought to speak, but no one seemed inclined to say anything. Why, said the dodo, the best way to explain it is to do it. And as you might like to try the thing yourself some winter day, I will tell you how the dodo managed it. First, it marked out a winter day. I'm not doing a race in a winter day. If anybody wants to do it in a winter day, not me. First, it marked out a race course in a sort of circle. The exact shape doesn't matter, it said. And then all the party were placed along the course, here and there. There was no 1, 2, 3, and away. But they all began running when they liked, and left off when they liked, so that it was not easy to know when the race was over. However, when they had been running half an hour or so, and were quite dry again, the dodo suddenly called out, "The race is over." And they all crowded around it, panting and asking, but it was won. This question the dodo could not answer without a great deal of thought, and it sat for a long time with one finger pressed upon its forehead, a position in which you usually see Shakespeare in the pictures of him. I like the imagery, thank you, thank you. While the rest waited in silence. At last the dodo said, "Everybody has won, and all must have prizes." But who is to give the prizes? Quite a chorus of voices asked. "Why, she, of course," said the dodo, pointing to Alice with one finger. I'd kill him. Bro, I just got here, what? I just got here, what are you talking about? Prizes, I just got here. I was also wet, what the hell? And the whole party at once crowded around her, calling out in a confused Prizes, 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 prizes. Alice had no idea what to do, and in despair, she put her hand in her pocket and pulled out a box of comfits. Luckily, the salt water had not gotten into it, and handed them round as prizes. There was exactly one apiece all round. But, she must have a prize herself, you know, said the mouse. Of course, said the dodo very gravely. What else have you got in your pocket? He went on, turning to Alice. Only a thimble, said Alice sadly. Hand it over here, said the dodo. And they all crowded around her once more while the dodo solemnly presented the thimble, saying, We beg your acceptance of this elegant thimble. And when it had finished this short speech, they had all cheered. So you're giving me a gift that I myself already had, okay? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, thank you. Alice thought the whole thing was very absurd, yes. But they all looked so grave that she did not dare to laugh, and as she could not think of anything to say, she simply bowed and took the thimble, looking as solemn as she could. The next thing was to eat the comfits. This caused some noise and confusion, as the large birds complained that they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. However, it was over at last, and they sat down again in a ring and begged the mouse to tell them something more. You promised to tell me your history, you know, said Alice, and why it is you hate C and D, she added in a whisper, half afraid that it would be offended again. Mine is a long and sad tale, said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. It is a long tale, certainly, said Alice, looking down with wonder at the mouse's tail. But why do you call it sad? And she kept on puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking. So that is her idea of the tale, was something like this. Oh, brother, I literally cannot read this because Alice has put all the words into the shape of a fucking tail. I literally cannot read this. Wait, let me see. Because the font is now spelled into a tail, and it is so tiny, I literally can't see it. Fury said to a mouse that he met in a house, Let us both go to law, I will prosecute you. Come, I'll take no denial. We must have a trial for this morning. I've nothing to do, said the mouse. I can't read any more than that. It's all literally in the shape of a tail. Alice, this stupid bitch. She was like, oh, a tail, of course. Yeah, I don't need to pay attention to anything he's saying. You are not attending, said the mouse to Alice severely. What are you thinking of? I beg your pardon, said Alice very humbly. You have got to the fifth bend, I think. I had not, cried the mouse sharply and very angrily. A knot, said Alice, always ready to make herself useful and looking anxiously about her. Oh, do let me help you undo it. I shall do nothing of the sort, said the mouse, getting up and walking away. You insult me by talking such nonsense. I didn't mean it, pleaded poor Alice. But you're so easily offended, you know. The mouse only growled in reply. Please come back and finish your story, Alice called after it, and the others all joined around in chorus. Please do. But the mouse only shook his head impatiently and walked a little quicker. What a pity it wouldn't stay, sighed the lorry, and as soon as it was quite out of sight, and an old crab took the opportunity of saying to her daughter, Ah, my dear, let this be a lesson to you to never lose your temper. Hold your tongue, Ma, said the young crab a little snappishly. You're enough to try the patience of an oyster. I wish I had Ardina here. I know I do, said Alice aloud. A is Dina, if I might venture to ask the question," said Lori. Alice replied eagerly, for she was always ready to talk about her pet. "Dina's our cat, and she's such a capital one for catching mice you can't think. And oh, I wish you could see her after the birds. Why, she'll eat a little bird as soon as she looks at it." This speech caused a remarkable sensation among the party. I wonder why. Some of the birds hurried off at once. One old magpie began wrapping itself up very carefully, remarking, I really must be getting home. The night air doesn't suit my throat." And a canary called out in a trembling voice to its children, come away, my dears. It's high time you were all in bed." On various pretexts, they all moved off, and Alice was soon left alone. "I wish I hadn't mentioned Dina," she said to herself in a melancholy tone. "Nobody seems to like her down here, and I'm sure she's the best cat in the world. Oh, my Dina, I wonder if I'll ever see you anymore." And here poor Alice began to cry, for she felt very lonely and low-spirited. In a little while, however, she again heard a little pitter-patter of footsteps in the distance, and she looked up eagerly, half hoping that the mouse had changed its mind and was coming back to finish its story. Chapter 4. The rabbit sends in a little bill. It was the white rabbit, trotting slowly back again and looking anxiously about as it went, as if it had lost something. And she heard it muttering to itself, "Oh, the Duchess, oh my dear paws, oh my fur, my whiskers, she'll get me executed. As sure as ferrets are ferrets, where can I have dropped them, I wonder?" Alice guessed in a moment that it was looking for the fan and the pair of white kid gloves. She had very good-naturedly began hunting for about them, but they were nowhere to be seen. Everything seemed to have changed since her swim in the pool, and the great hall with the glass table and the little door had vanished completely. Very soon the white rabbit noticed Alice as she went hunting about, and called out to her in an angry tone, "Why, Marianne, what are you doing out here? Run home this moment and fetch me a pair of gloves and a fan. Quick now." And Alice was so frightened that she ran off at once in the direction it pointed to, without trying to explain the mistake it had made. "He mistook me for his housemaid," she said to herself as she ran. "How surprised he'll be when he finds out who I am. But I'd better take him his fan and gloves, that is, if I can find them." As she said this, she came upon a neat little house, on the door of which was a bright brass plate with the name W. Rabbit engraved upon it. She went in without knocking and hurried upstairs, in a great fear lest she meet the real Marianne and be turned out of the house before she had found the fan and gloves. "How queer it seems," Alice said to herself, "to be going on messages for a rabbit. I suppose Dina will be sending me on messages next." And she began fancying the sort of thing that would happen. "Miss Alice, come here directly and get ready for your walk." "Coming in a minute, nurse, but I've got to watch this mouse hole until Dina comes back, and see that mouse doesn't get out. Only, I don't think," Alice went on, "that they'd let Dina stop in the house if it began ordering people about like that." By this time, she had found her way into a tiny little room with a table in the window, and on it, as she had hoped, a fan and 2 or 3 pairs of tiny white kid gloves. herself. Whenever I eat or drink anything. So, I'll just see what this bottle does. I do hope it will make me grow large again, for really I'm quite tired of being such a tiny little thing. It did, so indeed, and much sooner than she had expected. Before she had drunk half the bottle, she found her head pressing against the ceiling, and had to stoop to save her neck from being broken. She hastily put down the bottle, saying to herself, "That is quite enough. I hope I shan't grow any more. As it is, I can't get out the door. I do wish I hadn't drunk quite so much. Alas." So much alas in this book. Alas. It was too late to wish that. She went on growing and growing, and very soon had to kneel down on the floor. In another minute, there was not even room for this, and she had tried the effect of lying down with one elbow against the door and the other arm curled around her head. She still went on growing, and as a last resource, she put one arm out of the window and one foot up the chimney, and said to herself, "Now, I can do no more. Whatever happens, what will become of me?" Luckily for Alice, the little magic bottle had now had its full effect, and she grew no larger. Still, it was very uncomfortable, and as there seemed to be no short of chance of her ever getting out of the room again, no wonder she felt unhappy. It was much pleasanter, pleasanter. She doesn't know how to read. I know that's the gag that like Alice just makes up words, but I'm like, what is she saying? Much pleasanter at home, thought poor Alice. When one wasn't always growing larger and smaller, and being ordered about by mice and rabbits, I almost wish I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole. And yet, it's rather curious, this sort of life. I do wonder what can have happened to me. When I used to read fairy tales, I fancied that this kind of thing never happened. And now, here I am in the middle of one. There ought to be a book written about me. There ought. And when I grow up, I'll write one. But I'm grown up now, she added in a sorrowful tone. At least there's no room to grow up anymore here. But then, thought Alice, shall I never grow any older than I am now? That'll be a comfort, one way, never to be an old woman. Oh, but then, always to have lessons to learn. Oh, I shouldn't like that. Oh, you foolish Alice, she answered herself. How can you learn lessons in here? Why, there's hardly any room for you, and no room at all for any lesson books. And so she went on, taking first one side, then the other, and making quite a conversation of it altogether. But after a few minutes, she heard a voice outside and stopped to listen. Marianne, said the voice, fetch me my gloves at this moment. Then came the little pattering of feet. On the stairs, Alice knew it was the rabbit coming to look for her, and she trembled till the house shook, quite forgetting that she was now about 1,000 times as large as the rabbit, and had no reason to be afraid of it. Presently, the rabbit came up to the door and tried to open it. But as the door opened inwards and Alice's elbow was pressed hard against it, that attempt proved a failure. Alice heard it say to itself, "Then I'll go around and get in at the window." That you won't, thought Alice, and after waiting till she fancied heard the rabbit just under the window, and suddenly she spread out her hand and made a snatch in the air. She did not get a hold of anything, but she heard a little glass from which she had concluded that it was just possible it had fallen into a cucumber frame or something of the sort. And next came an angry voice, the rabbit's. Pat, Pat, where are you? And then a voice she had never heard before. Sure, I'm here, digging for apples, Your Honor. Digging for apples indeed, said the rabbit angrily. Here, come help me out of this. Sounds of more broken glass. Now tell me, Pat, what is that in the window? Sure, it's an arm, Your Honor. He pronounced it arum. It's an arum. An arm, you goose. Whoever saw one that size, why it fills the whole window. Sure it does, Your Honor, but it's an arum for all that. Well, it's got no business there, at any rate. Go and take it away. I love how the rabbit assumes it's not attached to anything. He's like, okay, well, I don't know why there's an arm in my house, but it needs to go. There was a long silence after this, and Alice could only hear whispers now and then, such as, sure, I don't like it, Your Honor, at all. Do as I tell you, you coward. And at last, she spread out her hand again and made another snatch in the air. This time, there were 2 little shrieks and more sounds of broken glass. What a number of cucumber frames there must be, thought Alice. I wonder what they'll do next. As for pulling me out the window, I only wish they could. I'm sure I don't want to stay in here any longer. She waited for some time without hearing anything more. At last came the tumbling of little wheel carts, and the sound of a good many voices all talking together. She made out the words, where's the other ladder? Why, I hadn't thought to bring one. Bill's got the other, Bill. Bill, fetch it here, lad. But, here, around this corner, no, tie them together first. They don't reach half as high enough yet. Oh, they'll do well enough. Don't be particular. Hey, Bill, catch hold of this rope. Will the roof bear? Mind that loose slate. Oh, it's coming down. Heavens below. Now, who did that? It was Bill, I fancy. Who's to go down the chimney? Nay, I shan't. You do it. That I won't, then. Bill's got to go down. Here, Bill. The master says you've got to go down the chimney. Oh, so Bill's got to come down the chimney, has he? Says Alice to herself. Why, they seem to put everything on Bill. I wouldn't be in Bill's place for a good deal. This fireplace is narrow, to be sure, but I think I can kick a little. She drew her foot far down the chimney as she could, and waited until she heard a little animal. She couldn't guess of what sort it was, scratching and scrambling about the chimney close above her. Then, saying to herself, this is Bill, she gave one sharp kick and waited to see what would happen next. The first thing she heard was a general chorus of, oh, there goes Bill. Then the rabbit's voice alone, catch him, you by the hedge. And then silence. Then another confusion of voices. Hold up his head, Brandy now, don't choke him. How was it, old fellow? What happened to you? Tell us about it. Last came a feeble squeaking voice. That's Bill, thought Alice. Well, I hardly know no more, think ya. I'm better now. But I'm a deal too flustered to tell you. All I know is something comes at me like a jack-in-the-box and I go up like a skyrocket. So you did, old fellow, said the others. We must burn the house down, said the rabbit's voice. That is an insane set of circumstances. He said, let's burn the house down. What? Alice, if you just don't stand up, what the hell? If you do, I'll set Dino on you, Alice called out as loud as she could. There was a dead silence instantly, and Alice thought to herself, I wonder what they will do next. If they had any sense, they'd take the roof off. After about a minute or two, they began moving about again, and Alice heard the rabbit say a barrowful would do to begin with. A barrowful of what? Thought Alice, but she had not long to doubt, for the next moment a shower of little pebbles came rattling in at the window, and some of them hit her in the face. They started throwing rocks at her. It's fucked up. I'll put a stop to this, she said to herself and shouted, You'd better not do that again, which produced another dead silence. She noticed, with some surprise, that the pebbles were all turning into little cakes as they lay on the floor, and a bright idea came into her head. If I eat one of these cakes, she thought, I'm sure to make some change in my size, as it can't possibly make me larger. It must make me smaller, I suppose. So she swallowed one of the cakes, and was delighted to find that she began shrinking directly. As soon as she was small enough to get through the door, she ran out of the house, and found quite a crowd of little animals and birds waiting outside. The poor little lizard, Bill, was in the middle, being held up by two guinea pigs who were giving it something out of a bottle. They all made a rush at Alice the moment she appeared, but she ran off as hard as she could, and soon found herself safe in thick wood. Oh, Alice. I don't even understand why she had to do all of that, because it didn't even help her. Just getting herself into nonsense. She could have just literally left after the rabbit told her to go get it. She could have just left and walked into that neighborhood. The first thing I've got to do, said Alice to herself as she wandered about in the wood, is to grow to my right size again. And the second thing to do is to find my way into that lovely garden. I think that will be the best plan. It sounded like an excellent plan. No doubt. And was very neatly and simply arranged. The only difficulty was, she had not the smallest idea how to set it about, and while she was peering about anxiously among the trees, a little sharp bark just over her head made her look up in a great hurry. An enormous puppy was looking down at her with large round eyes, feebly stretching out one paw, trying to touch her. I don't know why, as soon as I started streaming, my nose is suddenly itchy. Poor little thing, said Alice, in a coaxing tone, and she tried hard to whistle to it, but she was terribly frightened all the time at the thought that it might be hungry, in which case it would be very likely to eat her up in spite of all her coaxing. Hardly knowing what she did, she picked up a little bit of a stick and held it out to the puppy, whereon the puppy jumped into the air off its feet all at once, with a yelp of delight, and rushed at the stick. It made believe not to worry it. Then Alice dodged behind a great thistle to keep herself from being run over, and at that moment she appeared on the other side. The puppy made another rush at the stick and tumbled head over heels in its hurry to get hold of it. Then Alice, thinking it was very like having a game of play with a cart horse, and expecting every moment to be trampled under its feet, ran around the thistle again, and then the puppy began a series of short charges at the stick, running a very little way forwards each time. I-oh, I. And a long hoarsely all the while, till at last it sat down a good way off, panting, with its tongue hanging out of its mouth, and its great eyes half shut. This seemed to Alice a great opportunity for making her escape, so she set off at once and ran till she was quite tired, ran out of breath, until the puppy's bark sounded quite faint in the distance. And yet, what a dear little puppy it was, said Alice, as she leant up against a buttercup to rest herself, and fanned herself with one of the leaves. I should have liked teaching it tricks very much. Oh, if I'd only been the right size to do it. Oh dear, I'd nearly forgotten that I've got to grow up again. Let me see. How it is. How is it to be managed? I suppose I ought to eat or drink something or other, but the great question is, what? It's fine. I am okay. I'm very sleepy, but I think it's because of the book. I think Alice is just like putting me to sleep slowly but surely. And also the very, very tiny rain sounds in the background are just kind of like setting me off to bed. So I'm about ready to go. But I'm gonna read for like probably until the next ad break, and then I'll stop. Thanks much for the follow. The great question certainly was, what? Alice looked all around at her flowers, at the flowers and the blades of grass, but she could not see anything that looked like the right thing to eat or drink under the circumstances. There was just a large mushroom growing near her, about the same height as herself, and when she had looked under it, and on both sides of it, and behind it, it occurred to her that she might as well look and see what was on top of it. She stretched herself up on her tippy toes, and peeped over the edge of the mushroom, and her eyes immediately met those of a large blue caterpillar that was sitting on the top, with his arms folded, quietly smoking a long hookah, and talking not the smallest notice of her or of anything else. It's interesting they kept the hookah, but not the dog. I mean, I do think the hookah smoking caterpillar is more iconic than the dogs and the animal race from earlier, but it's just kind of interesting. Like, I mean, honestly, they could have kept the animal race too. They're gonna keep the hookah smoking caterpillar. What are we on? Chapter 5. Advice from a caterpillar. The caterpillar and Alice looked at each other for some time in silence. At last, the caterpillar took the hookah out of its mouth and addressed her in a languid, sleepy voice. "Who are you?" said the caterpillar. This was not an encouraging opening for a conversation. Alice replied rather shyly, I hardly know, sir. Just at present, at least, I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have changed several times since then. What do you mean by that? Said the caterpillar sternly. Explain yourself. I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir, said Alice, because I'm not myself, you see. I don't see, said the caterpillar. I'm afraid I can't put it more clearly, said Alice very politely, for understand it myself to begin with, and being so many different sizes in a day is very confusing. It isn't, said the caterpillar. Well, perhaps you haven't found it so yet, said Alice, but when you have to turn into a chrysalis, you will someday, you know. And then after that, into a butterfly. I should think you'll feel a little queer, won't you? Not a bit, said the caterpillar. Well, perhaps your feelings may be different, said Alice. All I know is it would feel queer to me. You, said the caterpillar, contemptuously. The letters are like spinning now. Who are you? Which brought them back again to the beginning of the conversation. Alice felt a little irritated by the caterpillars making such very short remarks, and she drew herself up and said very gravely, I think you ought to tell me who you are first. Why? Said the caterpillar. Here was another puzzling question, and as Alice could not think of any good reason, and as the caterpillar seemed to be in a very unpleasant state of mind, she turned away. Come back, the caterpillar called after her. I've got something important to say. This sounded promising, certainly. Alice turned and came back again. Keep your temper, said the caterpillar. Is that all? Said Alice, swallowing down her anger as well as she could. No, said the caterpillar. Alice thought she might as well wait, as she had nothing else to do, and perhaps, after all, it might be something worth hearing. For some minutes, it puffed away without speaking, but at last it unfolded its arms, took the hookah out of its mouth again, and said, So you think you're changed, do you? I'm afraid I am, sir, said Alice. I can't remember things as I used to, and I don't keep the same size for 10 minutes altogether. Can't remember what things, said the caterpillar. Well, I've tried to say, how doth the little busy bee, but it all came different, Alice replied in a very melancholy voice. Repeat, you are old, Father William. Alice folded her hands and began. You are old, Father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think, at your age, it is right? In my youth, Father William replied to his son, I feared it might injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why, I would do it again and again. I'm assuming it's supposed to be pronounced again and again, so it rhymes. You are old, said the youth, as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason of that? In my youth, said the sage, as he shook his gray locks, I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple. You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? In my youth, said his father, I took to the law, and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life. I hate my wife, even all the way back then. I hate my wife. Humor transcends time. You were old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough, said his father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. Kind of a banger, I can't lie. Kind of a banger of a little story. Kinda ate that one up. It's just his son getting upset that his father is kind of that guy. I don't know. That is not said right, said the caterpillar. Not quite right, I'm afraid, Alice said timidly. Some of the words have gotten altered. It is wrong from beginning to end, said the caterpillar decidedly, and there was silence for some minutes. The caterpillar was the first to speak. What size do you want to be? It asked. Oh, I'm not particular as to size, Alice hastily replied. Only one doesn't like changing so often, you know. I don't know, said the caterpillar. Alice said nothing. She had never been so much contradicted in her life before, and she felt she was losing her temper. Are you more content now? Said the caterpillar. Well, I should like to be a little larger, sir, if you wouldn't mind, said Alice. 3 inches is such a wretched height to be. It is a very good height indeed, said the caterpillar, angrily rearing itself upright as it spoke. It was exactly 3 inches high. But I'm not used to it, pleaded poor Alice in a piteous tone. And she thought to herself, I wish the creatures wouldn't be so easily offended. You'll get used to it in time, said the caterpillar. And it put the hookah into its mouth and began smoking again. This time, Alice waited patiently until it chose to speak again. In a minute or 2, the caterpillar took the hookah out of its mouth, yawned once, or twice, and shook itself, and then got down off the mushroom and crawled away into the grass, merely remarking as it went, one side will make you grow taller, and the other side will make you grow shorter. Oh, one side of what? The other side of what? Thought Alice to herself. Of the mushroom, said the caterpillar, just as if she had asked it out loud. And in another moment, it was out of sight. Alice remained looking thoughtfully at the mushroom for a minute, trying to make out which were the 2 sides of it. And as it was perfectly round, she found this a very difficult question. However, at last she stretched her arms round it as far as they could go, and broke off a bit of the edge with each hand. Now which is it? She said to herself and nibbled a little bit of the right hand bit to try the effect. The next moment, she felt a violent blow underneath her chin. It had struck her foot, sudden change and felt there was no time to be lost. She was shrinking rapidly, so she set to work to eat some of the other bit. Her chin was pressed so closely against her foot, there was hardly any room to open her mouth, but she did at last, and managed to swallow a morsel of the last hand bit. "Come, my head's free at last," said Alice, in a tone of delight, which changed into alarm in another moment, when she found that her shoulders were nowhere to be found. All she could see when she looked down was an immense length of neck, which seemed to rise like a stalk out of a sea of green leaves that lay far below her. "What can all that green stuff be?" said Alice, "and where have my shoulders got to? Oh, my poor hands, how is it that I can't see you?" She was moving them about as she spoke, but no result seemed to follow, except a little shaking among the distant green leaves. As there seemed to be no chance of getting her hands up to her head, she tried to get her head down to them, and was delighted to find that her neck would bend about easily in any direction like a serpent. She had just succeeded in curving it down into a graceful zigzag, and was going to dive among the leaves, which she found to be nothing but the tops of trees under which she had been wandering, when a sharp hiss made her draw back in a hurry. A large pigeon had flown into her face, and was beating her violently with its wings. You know, Alice in Wonderland is kind of like body horror for kids. When you really start and think about it, like, this is quite terrifying. Oh yeah, just my neck grew. Oh, I love that. I love that, actually. "Serpent," screamed the pigeon. "I'm not a serpent," said Alice indignantly. "Leave me alone. Serpent, I say again," repeated the pigeon, but in a more subdued tone, and added with a kind of sob, "I've tried every way, and nothing seems to suit them." "I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about," said Alice. "I've tried the roots of trees, I've tried the banks, I've tried the hedges, but those serpents—" The pigeon went on without attending to her. "There's no pleasing them." Alice was more and more puzzled, but she thought there was no use in saying anything more till the pigeon had finished. "As if it wasn't trouble enough hatching the eggs," said the pigeon. "Oh, but I must be on the lookout for the serpents night and day. Why, I haven't had a wink of sleep these 3 weeks. "I'm very sorry you've been annoyed," said Alice, who was beginning to see its meaning. "And just as I'd taken the highest tree in the wood," continued the pigeon, raising its voice to the shriek, "and just as I was thinking I should be free of them at last, they must need some railing down from the sky. Ugh, serpent. But I'm not a serpent, I tell you," said Alice. Well, what are you? I can see you're trying to invent something. "I'm a little girl," said Alice, rather doubtfully, as she remembered the number of changes she had gone through that day. "A likely story, indeed. I've seen a good many little girls in my time, but never one with such a neck like that. No, you're a serpent, and there's no use denying it. I suppose you'll be telling me next that you've never tasted an egg." "I have tasted eggs, certainly," said Alice, who was a very truthful child, "but little girls eat eggs quite as much as serpents do, you know." "I don't believe it," said the pigeon, "but if they do, why then, they're a kind of serpent, that's all I can say." This was a new idea to Alice, as she was quite silent for a minute or two, which gave the pigeon the opportunity of adding, "You're looking for eggs, enormous serpent. It matters a good deal to me, said Alice hastily, but I'm not looking for eggs, as it happens, and if I was, I wouldn't want yours. I don't even like them raw. Alice is just arguing with everybody in this fucking world, like she can't catch a break. She said, I didn't want your eggs. Well, I'll be off then, said the pigeon in a sulky tone as it settled down again into its nest. Alice crouched down among the trees as well as she could, for her neck kept getting entangled among the branches, and every now and then she had to stop and untwist it. After a while she remembered that she still held pieces of mushroom in her hands, and set to work very carefully nibbling first at one and then the other, growing sometimes taller and sometimes shorter, until she had succeeded in bringing herself down to her usual height. It was so long since she had been anything near the right size that it felt quite strange at first, but she got used to it in a few minutes and began talking to herself as usual. Come, there's half my plan done now. How puzzling all these changes are. I'm never sure what I'm going to be from one minute to another. However, I've got back to my right size. The next thing is to get into that beautiful garden. How is that to be done, I wonder? As she said this, she came suddenly upon an open place with a little house in it, about 4 feet high. Whoever lives there, thought Alice, it'll never do to come upon them this size. Why, I should frighten them out of their wits. So she began nibbling at the right-hand bit again, and did not venture to go anywhere near the house till she had brought herself down to 9 inches high. I don't have a quest, William. I'm just reading Alice in Wonderland. That's it. It's just Alice in Wonderland for me tonight. Until the next ad break at least, and then I'll wrap up. So I'll probably have like one more chapter. Chapter 6. Pig and Pepper. For a minute or two, she stood looking at the house and wondering what to do next, when suddenly a footman in livery came running out of the wood. She'd consider him to be a footman because he was in livery. Otherwise, judging by his face only, she would have called him a fish. She rapped loudly, and rapped loudly at the door with his knuckles. It was opened by another footman in livery, with a round face and large eyes like a frog, and both footmen, Alice noticed, had powdered hair that curled all over their heads. She felt very curious to know what it was all about, and crept a little out of the way of the wood to listen. The fish footman began by producing under his arm a great letter, nearly as large as himself, and this he handed over to the other, saying in a solemn tone, "For the Duchess, an invitation from the Queen to play croquet." The frog footman replied, in the same solemn tone, only changing the order of the words a little, "From the Queen, an invitation for the Duchess to play croquet." Then they both bowed low, and their curls got entangled together. Alice laughed so much at this that she had to run back into the wood for fear of their hearing her. And when she next peeped out, the fish footman was gone, and the other was sitting on the ground near the door, staring stupidly up into the sky. Next ad break is about listening with headphones and it's turned up, I would recommend to turn it down before the ad break happens. It's mostly going to be the last ad break we have because after this chapter, I'm going to sign off. Yes, yes. Alice went timidly up to the door and knocked. There's no sort of use in knocking, said the footman, and that for two reasons. First, because I'm on the same side of the door as you are. Secondly, because they're making such a noise inside, no one could possibly hear you. And certainly, there was a most extraordinary noise going on within, a constant howling and sneezing, and every now and then a great crash, as if a dish or a kettle had been broken to pieces. Please then, said Alice, how am I to get in? There might be some sense in your knocking, the footman went on without attending to her. If we had the door between us, for instance, if you were inside, you might knock, and I could let you out, you know. He was looking up into the sky all the time he was speaking, and this, Alice thought decidedly, was uncivil. But perhaps he can't help it, she said to herself. His eyes are so very nearly at the top of his head. But at any rate, he might answer questions. How am I to get in? She repeated aloud. I shall sit here, the footman remarked, till tomorrow. At this very moment, the door of the house opened, and a large plate came skimming out straight at the footman's head. It just grazed his nose and broke to pieces against one of the trees behind him. Or the next day, maybe, the footman continued in the same tone. Exactly as if nothing had happened. How am I to get in? Asked Alice again in a louder tone. Are you to get in at all? Said the footman. That's the first question, you know. It was no doubt. Only Alice did not like to be told so. It's really dreadful, she muttered to herself. The way all the creatures argue, it's enough to drive one crazy. The footman seemed to think this was a good opportunity for repeating his remark, with variations. I shall sit here, he said, on and off, for days and days. But what am I to do? Said Alice. Anything you like, said the footman, and began whistling. Oh, there's no use in talking to him, said Alice desperately. He's perfectly idiotic. I gotta use that. He's perfectly idiotic. She's kinda killing him. And she opened the door and went in. The door led right into a large kitchen, which was full of smoke from one end to the other. The Duchess was sitting on a three-legged stool in the middle, nursing a baby. The cook was leaning over the fire, stirring a large cauldron, which seemed to be full of soup. There's certainly too much pepper in that soup, Alice said to herself, as well as she could for sneezing. There was certainly too much of it in the air. Even the Duchess sneezed constantly, and as for the baby, it was sneezing and howling alternately, without a moment's pause. The only two creatures in the kitchen that did not sneeze were the cook and a large cat, which was sitting on the hearth, grinning from ear to ear. Please, would you tell me, said Alice, a little timidly, where she was not quite sure whether it was good manners for her to speak first. Why your cat grins like that? It's a Cheshire cat, said the Duchess. That's why. Big. She said the last word with such sudden violence that Alice quite jumped. But she saw in another moment that it was addressed to the baby, and not to her. So she took courage and went on again. I didn't know that Cheshire cats always grinned. conversation. "You don't know much," said the Duchess, "and that's a fact." Alice did not like the tone of this remark, and thought it would be as well to introduce some other subject of conversation. While she was trying to fix on one, the cook took a cauldron of the soup off the fire, and at once set to work to throw everything within her at reach of the Duchess and the baby. The fire irons came first, then followed a shower of saucepans, plates, and dishes. The Duchess took no notice of them, even when they hit her, and the baby was howling so much already that it was impossible to say whether the blows hurt or not. "Oh, please mind what you're doing," cried Alice, jumping up and down in an agony of terror. "Oh, there goes his precious nose," as an unusually large saucepan flew close by it and nearly carried it off. "If everyone minded their own business," said the Duchess in a hoarse growl, "the world would go a round deal faster than it does." "Which would not be an advantage," said Alice, who felt very glad to get an opportunity of showing off her little knowledge. "Just think of what work it would make with the day and night. You see, the earth takes up 24 hours to turn around on its axis." "Talking of axes," said the Duchess, "chop off her head." Alice glanced around rather anxiously at the cook to see if she meant to take the hint, but the cook was busily stirring the soup and seemed not to be listening, so she went on again. 24 hours, I think, or is it 12? Oh, don't bother me," said the Duchess. "I can never abide figures." And with that, she began nursing her child again, singing a sort of lullaby to it, as she did so, and giving it a violent shake. At the end of every line were CPS. Got the plates and the saucepan being thrown at the baby. What the hell? Shaking the baby. "Speak roughly to your little boy and beat him when he sneezes. He only does it to annoy because he knows he teases." Wow, wow, wow. While the Duchess sang the second verse of the song, she kept tossing the baby violently up and down, and the poor little thing howled, so that Alice could hardly hear the words. "I speak severely to my boy. I beat him when he sneezes, for he can thoroughly enjoy the pepper when he pleases." Wow, wow, wow. Now that part, this entire section, I completely understand Disney being like, we cannot include that. We can't include that part, baby abuse. Not in our Disney production. "Here, you may nurse it a bit if you'd like," said the Duchess to Alice, flinging the baby at her as she spoke. "I must go and get ready to play croquet with the Queen." And she hurried out of the room. The cook threw a frying pan after her as she went, but it just missed her. Alice caught the baby with some difficulty, as it was a queer-shaped little creature, and held out its arms and legs in all directions. Just like a starfish, thought Alice. The poor thing was snorting like a steam engine when she caught it, and kept doubling itself up and straightening itself out again, so that altogether, for the first minute or two, it was as much as she could do to hold it. As soon as she had made it out the proper way of nursing it, which was to twist it up into a sort of knot, and then keep tight hold of its right ear and left foot as to prevent it from undoing itself, she carried it out into the open air. "If I don't take this child away with me," thought Alice, "they're sure to kill it in a day or two. Wouldn't it be murder to leave it behind?" This poor Alice, she's like 6 years old, being like, I don't know. I guess I'm in charge of this child. I don't know. last words out loud, and the little thing grunted in reply. It had left off sneezing by this time. Don't grunt, said Alice. That's not at all a proper way of expressing yourself. The baby grunted again, and Alice looked very anxiously into its face to see what was the matter with it. There could be no doubt that it had a very upturned nose, much more like a snout than a real nose. Also, its eyes were getting extremely small for a baby. Altogether, Alice did not like the look of the thing at all. But perhaps it was only sobbing, she thought, and looked into its eyes again to see if there were any tears. No, there were no tears. If you're going to turn into a pig, my dear, said Alice seriously, I'll have nothing more to do with you, mind now. The poor little thing sobbed again, or grunted. It's impossible to say which, and they went on for some while in silence. Alice was just beginning to think to herself, and now what am I going to do with this creature when I get home? When it grunted again, so violently that she looked down into its face in some alarm. This time, there could be no mistake about it. It was neither more or less than a pig, and she felt that it would be quite absurd for her to carry it any farther. So she set the little creature down and felt quite relieved to see it trot away quietly into the wood. There is a plane going over me and it's very loud. And it's gone. Okay. If it had grown up, she said to herself, it would have made a dreadfully ugly child, but it makes a rather handsome pig, I think. And she began thinking over other children she knew who might do very well as pigs, and was just saying to herself, if one only knew the right way to change them, when she was a little startled by seeing a Cheshire cat sitting on the bough of a tree a few yards off. The cat only grinned when it saw Alice. It looked good-natured, she thought. Still, it had very long claws and a great many teeth, so she felt it ought to be treated with respect. A Cheshire puss, she began rather timidly, as she did not know at all whether it would like the name. However, it only grinned a little wider. Come, it's pleased so far, thought Alice, and she went on. Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to walk from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to, said the cat. I don't care much where, said Alice. Then it doesn't matter which way you walk, said the cat. So long as I get somewhere, Alice added as an explanation. Oh, you're sure to do that, said the cat, if you only walk long enough. Alice felt this could not be denied, so she tried another question. What sort of people live about here? In that direction, the cat said, waving its right paw around, lives a hatter, and in that direction, waving another paw, lives a March hare. Visit either you like, they're both mad. I memes, thank you for this up. You already missed the hookah smoking caterpillar. You already missed him. He came and went. You missed that. That was like 2 chapters ago. He was smoking the hell out of that hookah though. You missed it. I don't know if he's coming back, but you missed it. He already came and gave great advice. You missed that. We're on to the Cheshire Cat right now. It's too late for that. And then this chapter we're wrapping up stream. Because it's time for me to go to bed. It's only a 2-hour stream. And y'all can't see the images in the book, but the Cheshire Cat looks absolutely terrifying in the book. Like, actually terrifying. It's not very friendly at all. Especially because Alice is like literally 3 apples tall, and this Cheshire Cat is like the same size as her, and it's like he looks demonic. And I would know. But I don't want to go among the mad people, Alice remarked. Oh, you can't help that, said the cat. We're all mad here. I'm mad. You're mad. How do you know that I'm mad? Said Alice. You must be, said the cat, or you wouldn't have come here. Alice didn't think that proved it at all. However, she went on. And how do you know that you're mad? To begin with, said the cat, a dog's not mad. You grant that? I suppose so, said Alice. Well then, the cat went on. You see, a dog growls when it's angry and wags its tail when it's pleased. Now I growl when I'm pleased and wag my tail when I'm angry. Therefore, I'm mad. I call it purring, not growling, said Alice. Call it what you like, said the cat. Do you play croquet with the queen today? I should like it very much, said Alice, but I haven't been invited yet. You'll see me there, said the cat, and vanished. Alice was not much surprised at this. She was getting so used to queer things happening. While she was looking at the place where it had been, it suddenly appeared again. By the by, what became of the baby? Said the cat. I'd nearly forgotten to ask. It turned into a pig. Alice answered very quietly, just as if the cat had come back in a natural way. I thought it would, said the cat, and vanished again. There's been queer things happening this whole book. Queer things left, queer things right. Right in time for LGBTQIA month. Alice waited a little, half expecting to see it again, but it did not appear, and after a minute or two, she walked on in the direction which the March Hare was said to live. I've seen hatters before, she said to herself. The March Hare will be much the most interesting. And perhaps, as this May won't be raving mad, at least not so mad that it was at March. As she said this, she looked up, and there was the cat again, sitting on a branch of a tree. Did you say pig or fig? Said the cat. I said pig, replied Alice, and I wish you wouldn't keep appearing and vanishing so suddenly. You make one quite giddy. All right, said the cat, and this time it vanished quite slowly, beginning with the end of the tail and ending with a grin, which remained some time after the rest of it had gone. Well, I've often seen a cat without a grin, thought Alice, but a grin without a cat. That is the most curious thing I ever saw in all my life. She had not gone much further before she came in sight of the house of the March Hare. She thought it might be the right house because of the chimneys that were shaped like ears, and the roof was thatched with fur. It was so large a house that she did not like to go near until she had nibbled some more of the left-hand bit of the mushroom and raised herself about 2 feet high. So what is she now, like 2 feet? I forgot how tall she was before. What is she, like 2 feet 9 inches? What, 3 feet tall? Like, if that. Or she's 2 feet now. Did she not keep the 9 inches? She's just 2 feet. Even then, she walked up towards it rather timidly, saying to herself, "Suppose it should be raving mad after all. I almost wish I'd gone to see the Hatter instead." And that's where we're gonna stop. That's about like halfway. We're gonna stop before we get to chapter 7. Because I think they are, let me look actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12. So we're literally exactly at the halfway point. Exactly at the halfway point. Beautiful. So be ready to read the rest of it. I do understand why they did not add that last part. They had to take that last part out. They had to take that last part out. You can't have baby abuse in Disney. Like, that was never gonna happen. That makes sense that like most of the stories don't ever talk about that part. Even though it's not a real baby, it's still just a crazy part to have in there. So like, I get that. I get it. I also understand why they cut out chapter 3. Because chapter 3 is a little boring compared to like everything else, and it's a bit like nonsensical. I think it makes sense in the context of like everything else to show like how wacky the entire world is, like Wonderland is. But it is like pretty boring. Like, it's just animals like yelling and her fighting with the animals. Like, I get that. I get that. I understand. I do think, well, I don't think they have that scene. Because I think they cut out chapter 3, 4, and no, they just cut out chapter 3, 4, and 6. 3, 4, well, they kept the Cheshire Cat part, which makes sense. Pretty iconic part, because you can't have like baby abuse. It is kind of crazy though. They were just like throwing all this shit at the baby. She was like, that line, you can't have that line in Disney. Well, if I leave the baby here, that's basically murder. So that's my favorite line in the entirety of the book. If I leave the baby here, that's basically murder, so I have to take the baby. Top 10 lines. Love that one. I really like this book. I think Alice in Wonderland is actually a pretty good read. I think Alice in Wonderland is genuinely like a good read. Like, it's pretty good. Like, I thought it was gonna be kind of boring, like the original story, but the original story is really good. It's actually really good because sometimes, well, we didn't finish that other short story. Oh my god, there's another plane going over my house. It's so loud. I gotta wait until it's gone because I can't think. Okay. We didn't finish doing all of the fairy tale, like Grimm's fairy tales from before, which I do want to finish at some point. Finish the rest of that book. But like, sometimes you read like a Grimm's fairy tale and like you completely understand like why they changed it, like in animation or like throughout the years, because it's just a little boring, you know? Like, they weren't cooking in the kitchen. Like, they really were not cooking in the kitchen when they did that. Let me see if I have Grimm's over here. I don't think I have the book on me. Let me see. Oh damn, we are on chapter 8 of that book. Yeah, because it's like some of these ones. Chapter 8 was chapter 8, 45, page 45. Yeah, like Briar Rose and shit like that. Like, like, you understand like why they kind of skip some of these old ones. It's like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Some of the fairy tales, like, they just don't hold up with this one. This one's pretty good. I understand it now. pretty good. In 19, let me see. When did the it's 200 years old. Let me see. We haven't gotten to that story yet, so I don't even remember. I don't think we read the original Cinderella yet. 1865. Yeah, he was cooking. 1865. Yeah, Lewis Carroll was cooking. In 1865, he was killing it. He was killing it. He kind of ate that one. Also, his name is fantastic. Lewis Carroll. That's such a good, like, back-to-back. Good back-to-back Lewis and Carroll. Wow. Back-to-back. That's good. That's really good. I just wanted to see all the Lewis and Carroll books. Alice in Wonderland is his most popular. It's a good book. I actually want to read through the Looking Glass because I want to see if it's as good as the first one. Well, we're not done with Alice in Wonderland, so he has to stick the landing because, you know, I don't know whether or not it's a good ending or not. We don't know. I mean, obviously, we know what happens, but I don't know if it's the same in the book. But I do want to read through the Looking Glass now because I'm curious. I'm like, wow. Because the book is actually like, I thought the book, the original Alice in Wonderland, was like, I know I said earlier boring. That's not really the right terminology that I should have used. I thought it was somber. I thought the original book was a little bit somber and a little like, I mean, obviously whimsical, but like, I didn't think it was gonna have this tone. Like, Alice is like a really good protagonist. Because she's not like mean, but she's very stupid, but only in the way that like a kid could be stupid, you know? Like, it doesn't feel frustrating at any time because the world around her is so awful. It's never like frustrating that she's like doesn't understand what to do because the world around her is so out of sorts that it kind of pisses you off. You're kind of like in Alice's shoes, even though Alice says the wrong thing. The only time I could not defend her was when she kept talking to the mouse, and she kept telling the mouse about dogs and cats, and the mouse had already told her, girl, I'm not trying to hear that right now. I'm really not trying to hear about that. And she kept bringing up her fucking cat, like, stop talking, Alice. And she was like, oh my god, everybody's so offended. Everybody's so easily offended. What? What have I done? And that is a little funny, but like, Alice, I can't defend you. I can't defend you on that one. Mid as fuck. I did not think it was mid. I did not think it was mid. I just thought it was like, you know, like some of the Grimm's fairy tales that we read where it's like, some of them are like 2 out of 10s, you know, like they are not iconic. Like, clearly I forgot a good many of them. But like this one is like actually like a good read. Like, I would actually buy this book. Also the illustrations, which you can't see, but they're actually like really cutesy. Besides the Cheshire Cat, he looks terrifying. Besides him, he looks actually terrifying. And I realized I did not read the starting poem. Also, my favorite thing about this book so far are the little poems, or like the songs that are saying throughout the book. I actually quite like them. He's writing bangers. Lewis Carroll is writing some bangers, like that song about the father and the son. He kind of ate that. He ate that. Yeah, it's the OG illustrations. It's all in like black and white. It's the OG. Illustrated by John Tenniel. It's very nice. It's very I'm curious actually about what that art style because it kind of reminds me of like quilted tapestry, like the way that the illustrations are done. Like some of the shapes are a little bit like angular. It's cool. I'm wondering if he had a... Oh, he's a knight. John Dennell is a knight. Wow, for his artistic achievements. Wow. Alice in Wonderland, go crazy. Alice in Wonderland, go crazy. They said your art is so good, we gotta give you that knighthood. Yeah, we like that. Oh, you can see he has a website. Oh no, they're just on the website. They're very cutesy. I like them in color, but in the book they're like in black and white. I think I like them better in black and white, actually. But they're cute. I didn't read the initial poem. I'll read it now, even though we're like 6 chapters in. All in the golden afternoon, full leisurely we glide, for both our oars with little skill, by little arms are plied, while little hands make vain pretense our wanderings to guide. Ah, cruel three, in such an hour, beneath such dreamy weather, to beg a tale of breath too weak to stir the tiniest feather. Yet what can one poor voice avail against 3 tongues together? Imperious Prima flashes forth her edict to begin it in gentler tone. Sunda hopes there will be nonsense in it, while Tertia interrupts the tale not more than once a minute. Anon to sudden silence one, in fancy they pursue, the dream child moving through a land of wonders wild and new. In friendly chat with bird or beast, and half believe it true. And ever as the story drained the wells of fancy dry, and faintly strove that weary one to put the subject by. The rest next time, it is next time, the happy voices cry. Thus grew the tale of Wonderland, thus slowly, one by one, its quaint events were hammered out, and now the tale is done. And home we steer, a merry crew, beneath the setting sun. Alice, a childish story take, and with a gentle hand, lay it where childhood dreams are twined in memory's mystic band, like pilgrims withered wreath of flowers plucked in a far-off land. And that's it for tonight. We're on chapter 7 of Alice in Wonderland, and honestly the next time I'll just finish it out. I do remember I read the Jabberwocky, which is like the short story that's featured in, it is featured in The Looking Glass. Oh, so maybe I'll wait, because I thoroughly remember reading that, like way back when. I really liked it. I really liked it. But it's in The Looking Glass, which I think I'm gonna read it. I think I'm gonna read The Looking Glass after we finish Alice in Wonderland, because I actually like this book more than I thought, so actually will read it. And the Jabberwocky is like, oh my god, sorry, bumped the hell out of that mic. I like love the poem. It's like so good. It's like such good imagery. 10 out of 10. Tuned in just getting sleepy. Yeah. I got things to do tomorrow. I got things to do, and we've been here for 2 hours. We've been here for hours already. And since it took me 2 hours for me to read this many chapters, bully the streamer means literally exactly that. I don't like to be bullied. I don't like it when people do that. Because some people come in and then they're like, I'm gonna tease you as though we are friends. We are not friends. I don't want you to tease me. We don't have that sort of relationship. I don't want you to do that. I can tease you. You don't tease me unless I allow that. You know, I think people sometimes come in and they are overly friendly. And honestly, you gotta earn that right around here. So, as of right now, you know, memes is really one of the only people, but even memes flies too close to the sun, you know? Even memes flies a little close to the sun, you know? At times, even you. Gotta watch the VOD for the caterpillar. You know, he was kind of like a dick, to be honest. Like, but to be fair, like, I can't really be mad at him because, like, Alice is annoying. Like, not even in a way where I'm, like, upset with her. Like, she just kind of is annoying because she's, like, 6 years old, so I can't really even be mad. But it's like, yeah, if this little girl came in and started talking to me, I would be a little upset too, yeah. I'd be a little mad about that too, yeah. Because to be fair, like, I didn't even talk about this in the chapter because I was like, there's other things to talk about. But like, to be fair to him, like, Alice is telling him, like, she's like complaining. She's like complaining and she's like, I wish I was taller, I wish I was bigger, like, I'm not supposed to be like 2 feet or 2 inches tall. And he's like, okay, like, genuinely, like, what does that have to do with me? Like, I understand, I get it. But to be fair, he is one of the only people that helped her, so can't be too upset. Can't be too upset about that. He's one of the only people that actually helped her. So it's like, I don't know, Alice, I think you just have to eat that one on the chin a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you know, I like being sarcastic. I like being teasing, depending on what this stream is. I just don't like it when people, like, you know, bully. Like, you're essentially bullying me at that point, you know? Where it's like, if I say a word wrong or something like that, and then the whole chat is talking about that word, I'll just ban every single last one of you. Like, I can't be bothered. I truly cannot be bothered. Because it's like, y'all knew what I was trying to say. Like, I can't be bothered with it. I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. And then I think, like, this has nothing to do with anything, but, like, sometimes people nuke the whole chat. I'll just ban everybody, to be honest. Like, I don't care. Especially in this chat, I really don't care, because this is, like, it's not like, this is my second channel, so I genuinely don't care. Like, for real. Like, I'll ban everybody out of this chat. I'll ban everybody. I have, like, 0 expectations for this chat, so I actually really don't care about this channel. Well, I do, but, like, you know, not to the same extent as the other channel, where it's like I might be a little bit nicer, just a 1% bit nicer. But yeah, we'll do the rest of this book next time. I don't know when that's gonna be, because I haven't really decided if I'm gonna do a just chatting stream over on main just gonna figure that out when we figure it out that day. I haven't really decided, because if I'm too tired, then I might do ASMR and finish the rest of this book. But if I'm not that tired, I'll be over on Main and we'll be yapping. And then, if not, like if I end up doing a just chatting stream, then next week I'll finish this book. Next week, Wednesday, I'll finish this book. I'm basically wrapping up stream. I'm basically done already. ASMR streams are shorter because I get tired faster. They're not my usual 4-hour streams. I get tired doing ASMR. But yes, it was a good book reading. It was fun, actually. Yeah, I get really, really eepy when I do ASMR. It takes a lot out of me sometimes, like in a good way. You know, I'm just like, oh, I want to go to bed. Like after about like an hour of ASMR, I'm like, I kind of want to go to bed now. So I have to make like a really concerned effort to like keep going beyond that, but I was really enjoying the book. Either next week or Friday, I will finish this book. I'll just update via Discord on what I'm gonna do, because normally I don't have stuff to do on Friday, but this week I do have an appointment for something, and it's so long, so I'm ending pretty late. So we'll just see. I'll put a message out on Discord on what I'm gonna end up doing when it gets like closer to stream time, and I'll probably push back stream that day anyway. It will probably end up being like a 9 p.m. stream. Probably end up being a 9 p.m. PST stream. Whatever it ends up being. It's a boring appointment. It's like I have to do some paperwork for something. But anyway, thank you so much to everybody that tuned in to stream today. I know it's been a long time since I did ASMR. I don't really care. ASMR is just something that I want to do when I want to do it. And then when I don't want to do it, I don't do it anymore. So that's why I have this channel, so that whenever I do want to do ASMR, it's just there, you know. But the VOD will be up on YouTube if you missed it. It's there, and also on Twitch, but only for like, I don't know, 7 days or something. So if you miss it, be on there. It's up on my YouTube, on the ASMR YouTube channel, not my main YouTube channel. Again, everything is separate now. ASMR is separate completely. You will never see ASMR on the main channels. Never again. I haven't done ASMR in a while, so I think everyone was confused, but yes. Outside of that, thank you. If you didn't hear this today, you are in fact loved, valued, and appreciated. You deserve to hear that every single day of your life, and I'm happy to be one person in this lifetime that tells you that you're loved, you're valued, and you are appreciated. If you're wondering who loves you, I do. I love you as much as one stranger can love another stranger. And I mean that. Not even a 5-second segment, no. Maybe like a 2-second segment. But like, the minute I start doing that, then everybody's gonna ask for ASMR, so I don't even want to do it as a joke. I don't even want to entertain it as a joke. But yes, I'm not gonna read out tonight because I'm tired. So, night, sleep tight. Updates via Discord or on Twitter. But Discord, you know, if you want to stay connected. Otherwise,